Barnaby wasn't like other people. He was tiny, small as a pinhead. The world was a giant place for him. A blade of grass was a tree, a pebble was a boulder. Barnaby lived in a field under a giant mushroom. He made his home in a tiny hole in the mushroom's stem. He ate wild berries smaller than poppy seeds. He drank dewdrops from blades of grass. One day, Barnaby was searching for food. He spotted a giant crumb on the ground. It was bigger than his house. He started to climb it, eager for a feast. Little did he know, this crumb would change his life forever. It was about to be picked up by a giant creature, a human girl. The girl picked up the crumb. Barnaby clung on for dear life. The ground seemed to fall away beneath him. He was terrified. The girl brought the crumb closer. Barnaby saw her face. It was like looking at a mountain. Her eyes were like giant pools. Then everything went dark. The girl had popped the crumb into her mouth. Barnaby tumbled into a warm, moist cave. He was trapped. He looked around, his heart pounding. He was in the girl's mouth. Barnaby found himself on a slippery pink surface. It was the girl's tongue. He felt a tremor. The tongue was moving. Giant white walls loomed around him. They were her teeth. They clashed together, crushing food with terrifying force. Barnaby had to escape. He spotted a gap between two teeth. He ran towards it, his tiny legs pumping. He squeezed through the narrow space just as the teeth slammed shut behind him. He was safe for now. Barnaby had survived the mouth, but his journey was far from over. He had entered a whole new world, the world inside the girl's body. Barnaby slid down a wet, pink tunnel. It was the girl's throat. It was dark and slippery. He felt himself being pulled downwards. He tried to grab onto something, anything, but the walls were too smooth. He was being swept along by a current, like a tiny boat in a raging river. Suddenly he saw a light ahead. The tunnel opened up into a vast chamber. Air rushed past him. He was in the girl's lungs. But even as he marveled at this new world, Barnaby knew he had to find a way to survive. There was no food here, and the air was thin and strange. Section 5. Lost in the Lungs. Barnaby landed on a soft, spongy surface. It was like a giant pink honeycomb. He was inside one of the girl's lungs. Air flowed in and out, bringing with it strange smells and dust particles. Barnaby coughed. It was hard to breathe in this strange air. He knew he couldn't stay here long. He had to find a way out, a way to continue his journey through the girl's body. But where could he go? The lungs seemed to stretch on forever. He felt lost and utterly alone. Section 6. The Stomach's Churning Sea. Barnaby clung to a piece of food, riding the waves of the stomach's churning sea. It was a wild, terrifying ride. He had escaped the lungs by clinging to a breadcrumb as it was swallowed. Now he was in a vast, churning cavern filled with digestive juices. The stomach walls contracted and churned. The juices bubbled and hissed. It was like being in a storm-tossed ocean. Barnaby knew he couldn't stay here for too long. He had to find a way out before he was dissolved by the powerful acids. Section 7. Through the intestines maze. Barnaby journeyed through the long, winding tunnels of the intestines. It was a confusing, claustrophobic maze. He had escaped the stomach by squeezing through a narrow passage. Now he was in a dark, twisting labyrinth. The walls were lined with millions of tiny, finger-like projections. They absorbed nutrients from the digested food. Barnaby had to be careful not to get swept away by the constant flow of waste. He was running out of time and energy. Section 8. Trapped in the liver's labyrinth. Barnaby found himself in the liver, a vast, complex organ. He was trapped in a maze of blood vessels and cells. He had been swept along by the bloodstream, carried away from the intestines. Now he was lost in this vital organ. The liver was a busy place, filtering toxins and producing bile. It was a labyrinth of tubes and chambers. Barnaby knew that if he didn't find a way out soon, he would be lost forever in this intricate organ. Section 9. A Heart of Stone. Barnaby felt himself being pulled towards the heart, a powerful pump. It beat with a dull, rhythmic thud. It was like a prison of flesh and blood. He had been swept along by the bloodstream, carried through a network of veins and arteries. Now he was trapped in the heart. The heart was a dark, muscular chamber. It contracted and expanded, pumping blood throughout the body. There was no escape. Barnaby was doomed to be trapped forever, a tiny prisoner in the girl's heart. His epic journey had come to a tragic end.